The Bengals made an unexpected move that has a really good chance of impacting their plans for the NFL draft, and in this video, I'll explain whether or not it was the smart move to make. Hi again, Bengals fans. John Sheeran of A to Z Sports Cincinnati here, and once again, the Bengals have reworked a contract for a running back. If you'll recall, back in 2023, Joe Mixon had 2 years remaining on a 4-year, $48 million contract extension that he signed all the way back in 2020. And the thought was, if the Bengals didn't restructure his deal, then they would probably cut him. But restructuring his deal is essentially what the Bengals did, and they turned his final 2 years into a more affordable 2 years and essentially made 2024 a team option, and they would decide on his future then. And of course, as we all remember, Mixon got traded in 2024 minutes after the team signed Zach Moss to a 2-year deal of his own. And just like Mixon before him, Moss entered this offseason as a cap casualty of his own for completely different reasons, right? Moss suffered a season-ending neck injury in the middle of the 2024 season. He was due about $3.5 million of salary this season. He would count for almost $5 million against the salary cap. It didn't seem likely that the Bengals would bring back Zach Moss, and in turn, they would draft someone to replace him on the depth chart. So when the Bengals made the conscious decision this week to rework Moss's deal, just like they did with Mixon a couple years ago, this is very notable in terms of the draft. We don't know the numbers yet, but we do know, according to NFL Media's Mike Garafolo and WLWT's Charlie Clifford, that the Bengals agreed on a reworked contract for Zach Moss. It would give Zach Moss guaranteed money for this season, and they did so after learning that he had a positive scan on his neck last month. Essentially, they're confident that he's going to pass his physical and be ready to play for the 2025 season, and this decision means that they're counting on having him during the 2025 season. So what does this all mean for the draft? Well, when Moss's future was very much up in the air, and it was assumed that they were going to cut him after passing the physical so they wouldn't have to owe him money, the Bengals would probably draft a running back with one of their 6 picks to essentially replace him on the depth chart and be the number 2 behind Chase Brown. This is an incredibly talented and deep running back class, so it seemed likely that the Bengals would spend one of their final picks on the position. But now that you have Brown, Samaje Perine, and Zach Moss all accounted for and expected to be on the 2025 roster, is there room for a 4th running back, and is it justifiable to use one of your 6 draft picks on that 4th back? And I think it's a really good question, because logically, you want to use your draft picks for where the draft is at its strongest. And running back is one of the deepest and most talented position groups in this entire draft. It's obviously led by a blue chip talent in Ashton Jeanty, but there's going to be several more that are selected on day 2 and trickle into day 3, which makes me wonder why the Bengals decided to do this with Zach Moss and essentially commit themselves to having him on the team in 2025. And yes, they could still cut Moss later this offseason if they so desired, but why give him any guaranteed money at all if that was even a possibility? You didn't give any guaranteed money to bring back Perine last month, so why give any to Moss when you weren't scheduled to do so in the first place? Bringing back Moss does eliminate running back as like a clear need for the Bengals in this draft, but that was a need that I think it would have been fine for the Bengals to address with a draft pick, because again, it's a really strong class to do so. And I'm not completely eliminating running back as a possibility for the Bengals to draft, because they could always still trade down sometime in this draft, gather extra picks, and use one of those extra picks on a running back. That would make a lot of sense. But until that happens, while the Bengals still only have 6 picks, I don't think anyone should expect one of those 6 picks to be a running back. But what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on Moss potentially coming back for the 2025 season and the Bengals rolling with the running back group that they have now? Let me know in the comments below.